What we know from data from the Intercultural Development Inventory is 65.5% of everybody's in minimization. I have done IDIs with 400 to 500 UUs from around the country, a number of them ministers, a number of them congregational leaders, also majority in minimization, very well-intentioned. One of the biggest challenges for those of us in minimization is we authentically have good intent. We just haven't figured out how to have our intent and impact match. And because we don't see what we don't see, it's hard to move out of minimization, right? The other thing I'll say about minimization before I talk about strategies to get out is that one of the characteristics of minimization is comfort, right? We want to be comfortable. We want to be able to interact with people different than ourselves in a way in which we're comfortable. The challenge is that it's often about our comfort. So I want to suggest to you that doing deep diversity, inclusion, and equity work is not about comfort, because somebody is already uncomfortable. They're already in that space of, how do I fit in around here? Am I going to need to lose part of myself in order to join this group? Are people seeing me different than I see myself? All of that creates dissonance for folks, right? And so what I'd like to suggest is that the work is not being comfortable, but actually spreading the discomfort around. Because somebody's already holding the discomfort for the group, for your congregation, and it's probably the folks who are different, who are trying to figure out, how do I fit in and survive here? So one of the things that I think is important for us to challenge then is this notion of safe space. Because I'd like to suggest to you that it really doesn't exist, right? We can make a space where folks can be in relationship with each other with all our complexity. But I can't guarantee safety, because we often equate safety with comfort. And that's what I want to challenge, is this notion of comfort. That I would suggest to you, comfort is a privilege. That for those of us who get to walk through the world, we don't have to think about our identity or our cultural assumptions, we're comfortable. So as somebody who's white, I carry an American passport. My first language is English, right? I'm middle class. I have a bachelor and a master's degree. There are certain assumptions, and I'm seen as a professional. I know that there are a number of spaces where I don't have to think about my identity or the organizations I'm in, because they're made for me. In other parts of my identity, as a queer woman, as a Jew, as somebody with a hidden disability, as a woman, I'm not always comfortable. And I have to think about, how do I manage those environments? This is what I mean by the notion of comfort is really a privilege. As we move out of minimization, it's really about, how do we see the things we don't see and really spread that discomfort around. So the work of minimization is kind of counterintuitive. We often think we're doing diversity and inclusion work, then I need to go learn more about them. I have to learn about structural racism. I've got to understand somebody else's experience. But if I'm in minimization, I might be curious about that, but I'm going to incorporate that information through my pre-existing lens without even knowing I'm doing it. Example might be, let's say we're doing outreach to this, in the Minnesota, the largest immigrant group are Somali Americans. Let's say our church wants to do some outreach to the mosque in our community and learn more about the Somali community so we can be in solidarity. So we have a panel of Somali folks coming and talking about their life, and we're in minimization. If I'm in minimization, I might sit in this panel and say, oh, I get it. Their family's just like mine in XYZ way. Or Ramadan, we have some similar stuff in our UU body of how we practice that's just like Ramadan. Or we might say, oh, their immigration experience was like what my, so we're going to use ourselves as the reference point, right? And so we're going to take in information, but we're going to try to use ourselves as the grounding. Now, is it important to find commonalities? Absolutely. But how do we say, yes, I get what they're talking about, and hold the distinction of their experience, right? I just want to say, if we were in defense and we listened to that panel, what we might do is think, oh, these Somali and Muslim folks are invading, right? And we're really going to have to watch out. If we're in reversal and we listen to the panel, what we might do is feel tremendous shame about the way anti-Muslim rhetoric in the United States has impacted them. The other thing we might do in minimization is we're going to listen to the panel, and let's say there's a woman on the panel wearing a hijab. What we might do is project our understanding of women's roles on that cultural context and say, yeah, I get all this stuff and it's great, but they're so misogynistic. I don't understand why they're treating women that way, rather than being curious about what does wearing a hijab mean to that woman? What does it mean in that cultural context? So the work in minimization is really, what is going on? What is my self-awareness? What are my values and my behavioral expectations that I'm projecting on somebody else? How do I take more responsibility for them so that I can, on an individual level, be more curious? On an organizational level, a lot of the work I do with organizations is take policies, practices, where minimization might be embedded in just the way we do things around there, and spend time deconstructing it to see where white dominant culture is embedded in those policies and practices, and then reconstructing it with equity at the center. So let me just give you one example. One of the things, I was working with an organization, and they wanted to do more diversity hiring. They particularly were looking for men of color to do youth work, right? And so not only did we think about where they did outreach to, but we started looking at the job description. And the first thing that had the job description was bachelor's degree required. I said, tell me more about that. Let's have some cultural self-awareness about why bachelor's degree required. I said, what are you looking for, right? And they said, we want somebody with good analytical ability, good communication ability, good written ability, and able to really have higher level thinking, because this is a complicated job. And so I worked at the University of Minnesota for 13 years. Unfortunately, I know you don't always get those things with a bachelor's degree, right? So I said to them, okay, so if that's what you want, how about you ask for those things? Because if we know that there are educational disparities at every step of the educational process, and there's a leaky pipeline through who actually gets to afford college, who gets to go to college, and you've just now made as a primary entry something that we know systemic racism is built into, right? You're constructing the job description privileging dominant culture folks. So what if we really take that out and really ask for what you're looking for? That's one of the ways we start deconstructing how dominant culture is built into our processes. Just one example.